Welcome back from that break. If you've just joined us, the show is still Good Morning Abuja, and you know how we do it. We bring you conversations that will definitely interest you. I have in the studio someone you definitely want to meet. I have a legal luminary and an elder statesman in the political space. Who am I talking about? I am talking of none other than Barrister Adebayo Shittu. Welcome to the program.
It's my pleasure.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yes, sir. So in my introduction, I mentioned you are a legal luminary as well as an elder statesman in the political terrain. We are where you started this journey from quite an early age. I'm wondering how old you were at that time, but now you're 70, sir. Can you take us down memory lane? Let's learn from you.
Thank you so much for inviting me and for being my host. I thank Almighty Allah for a wonderful life that He has given to me. I recall that I was in the University of Ife of those days, in the 70s. And along the line, we were on holidays, and I learned that the late Chief Obafemi Awolowo was coming to visit my town to start sensitizing his old political associates about the impending lifting of the ban on politics then, because the military had been in power for about 12 years, and they wanted to lift ban for the emergence of the Second Republic then. So he came, and when I learned that he was coming, I was excited to meet a man I had read so much about. So I sneaked into the venue of the meeting, made up of elders. I was the only young man there. He couldn't have recognized my presence. And in the course of his discussion, he told them, the military is about to leave ban, get prepared, blah, blah, blah. And he said a statement. If you have any of your children who is sufficiently educated and is interested in politics, please encourage him. It was as if the sentence was directed specifically at me. I took note of it, and later I decided that I have to seek advice to see whether I could take his statement seriously and act upon it. So at that time, we had one Dr. Lateef Adegbite, who was the only Muslim in the cabinet of the military state government then. So I went to visit him in Ibadan. It was my first time of going to Ibadan, to inform him that Chief Allah came, and this is the statement he made, whether that elder statesman, would advise me to pick on it and act upon. And he encouraged me, Dr. Lateef Adegbite. He was then Attorney General of the then Western State. He encouraged me. And so the next thing I did was, after getting back to Ife, I found my way to Park Lane, Apapa, where Chief Olowo was living. And of course, he was, surprised to see me, a young boy from school. He asked, "Where are you from?" I said, "From Shaki, but I'm now a student in the University of Ife." He said, "Why are you here?" Then I recall the fact that he came to Shaki a few months earlier and made that statement, which really encouraged me to come, that I was interested in politics. He said, "Okay, I'll give you 2 pieces of advice. When you go back to Ife, go to Ife bookstores. The general manager there is called Mr. Wumi Adegbamere.
Okay.
Tell him that whenever he's coming for meetings or committee of friends, he should be bringing you along. And then when you go back to Shaki, tell the elder, the leader of my group, that you have come to see me and I have encouraged you to contest election, the forthcoming election." It was an advice from heaven. So I did the 2 as instructed. And ever since, I became the only student and youth member of the then Committee of Friends, which became the Unity Party of Nigeria, which contested the general elections of 1979. By that 1979, I was already in the law school in Lagos.
Okay.
From my studentship, I contested election to the then Oyo State House of Assembly.
Wow.
And I became the youngest member of the State House of Assembly at age 26. Wow. Of course, there was no not too young to rule bill at that time.
Okay.
But I mean, I got inspiration and I acted upon it. And, you know, so, of course, in the House of Assembly, we resumed on the 2nd of October 1979. By the 8th of October, the then Chief Bolage, who was governor, sent a list of 25 commissioners to the Speaker through a letter asking him to get the House of Assembly to approve the list for appointment as commissioners. But the list didn't contain any resume of any of them, no CV, nothing. So on that 8th day of October 1979, I rose up in the House and I challenged that list.
And you were the youngest?
I was the youngest. I was just 26, fresh from law school. And I challenged you that I can't imagine us being asked to approve names of those we do not know anything about. Of course, both myself and Bolage were in the same party. But I didn't see that as limiting me from doing justice, legislative justice, to, you know, an assignment that we were to undertake. The Speaker was so shocked at my submissions, but perhaps was afraid to disappoint the then governor. So the Speaker just said, as Speaker, I overrule. Those in favor say aye, aye. Those not in favor say no. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. And that was the start of a tumultuous 4-year period. As the new government came on board, I was appointed the Honorable Commissioner for Home Affairs, Information and Culture at age 30.
Wow.
Ever since, I have been continuously very active in politics. Apart from the commissionership of 1983, in 2007, I became Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice. And again, in 2015, I became the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs, Information and Culture. This will show you that every period of my life in the last 45 years, I've been very actively involved in politics.
You have, and I am amazed at your memory.
Thank you so much.
At 70, you remember things that happened in the 70s,
it is
in
as
the
if
80s.
they happened only yesterday.
I'm amazed at your memory. You know, you still look strong at 70. Congratulations.
I thank God for good health and longevity.
All right. So, sir, what are your most important achievements so far? You've mentioned quite a lot that I can't even wrap my head around it. But
well, number one, the fact that against all odds, I've always triumphed in whatever aspiration. And in any one that I lost out, I have always felt that it was a blessing in disguise. For instance, I wanted to be secretary to the APC 2 years ago. I aspired to be. It was frustrated by a number of party leaders from Yoruba land. But I'm happy that it afforded me an opportunity to really work very hard for the election of the president-elect. But when people started aspiring for the presidential ticket, I just put all of them on the table and put myself in a position of a shareholder in a new company which wanted to recruit a managing director. I asked myself, what would be my yardsticks? My yardstick would not be whether the person has been a friend or not. My yardstick would not be whether the person is a Yoruba man like me or not. My yardstick would not be whether the person is a Muslim or not. My yardstick would be competence, would be evidence of prior cognate experience in managing resources and managing human beings.
So when you were speaking, you talked about fears of people that the whole campaign thing was going to be Yorubanized, or that was what you used. Now, my question is, Nigerians seem to fear one another. There's always this fear. No, this is a Christian thing. This is a Muslim thing. This is Yoruba. This is Igbo. This is Hausa. There seems to be a great divide among Nigerians. As an elder statesman, what do you think we need to do to ensure that our unity is like it used to be? I remember growing up, and I used to see pictures of a Yoruba man, Hausa and Igbo eating together, all those jingles and all those things. And I remember growing up as a Christian, during Muslim festivities, we would celebrate it as if we were Muslims. And during Christian festivities, the Muslims would celebrate with us. What happened?
Let me say this. We still must thank God for keeping Nigeria one, for bringing about peace and stability, for ensuring that despite all challenges, despite all odds, we still remain one united Nigeria. I think our leaders should always consider merit over and above tribal jingoism. A lot of people, when they know that on the merit they cannot achieve a position, they resort to tribalism, they resort to, all kinds of, negative, sentiments. So I also know that a leader like the late Chief Olo has often said that leaders must lead, they must not be led. A leader must be sufficiently educated to pull his people along. And when I say his people, not his tribe alone, the entire country. A leader must be sufficiently dispassionate, must see himself as bearing a trust, given to him by Almighty God. Because on the day of judgment, the leader will be responsible not only to his own tribesmen, not only to his own religious, people, but to the entire country. How has he led the country? How has he provided, for the well-being of the people? Anybody who dies in a country as a result of the negligence or the inefficiency of a leader, that leader will be accountable to God. For a lot of people, they think that God has nothing to do with politics, but it is God's, possession. Everything about us are God's possession. So the leader must have a sense of accountability, must have, must understand that he's just there for a temporary period. It's like somebody who is in school. A time will come when he will have to undergo examination, and if he does well, he will pass. If he doesn't do well, of course, the consequences will be on him. So more importantly, I have this regret about our religious leaders in Nigeria. Ordinarily, religious leaders should be likened to mechanics. When you buy a car, you say you have to go regularly to service the car so that the engine does not get knocked. In the same vein as the engine of a car can possibly get knocked if not regularly serviced, the heart and the conscience of men and women could also get knocked through lack of constant servicing in the hands of our religious leaders, who must consistently remind us about our responsibilities as human beings, one to another and one to our country. So if I have my way, really, I would ensure that religious leaders are actually paid stipends for the work of servicing the hearts and the conscience of Nigerians, so that Nigerians will be reminded of their responsibilities, be detached away from greed, away from selfishness, away from clannishness, away from tribalism, away from religious differences, so that we all see the Nigerian nation as our own commonwealth, to which all of us have a duty to protect it. So I therefore want to take this opportunity that all leaders of Nigeria, at whatever level, should appreciate that their status was given to them by God, not because of their own self-interest alone, but also because of the corporate interests of all Nigerians. The level of corruption in Nigeria is so mind-boggling that
that is a whole huge topic for.
I think it's the greatest problem that we have in Nigeria, which is stultifying our progress as a nation.
Yes, sir.
And so I expect that the incoming government will really see corruption as a cancer that must be uprooted if we are to develop,
this great nation
and leapfrog towards progress.
Okay, so this conversation has just started. Actually, I am enjoying it, but we have to go on a break. When we come back, Good Morning Abuja will continue. So please sit, relax, and we will come back after this short break. Welcome back from that break. Barrister Adebayo Shittu is still in the studio, and you need to tap from the wealth of his knowledge. Sir, from this side of I am from another generation and you are from another, and I am admiring all the things you've done, all your achievements. Your cap is, all the feathers are looking golden to me, and they have they have a lot of colors on them. In all your achievements, because you've achieved a lot, were there challenges?
Of course, there will always be challenges.
Okay.
I've always said that, God, every good thing that God blesses people with, He has done for me, by way of my children, by way of, having a few houses in Abuja, in Ibadan, and in my hometown, by way of the fact that I've been able to establish about 4 schools over the last 40 years, 2 secondary schools, 2 primary schools, by way of the fact that I've been able to write 8 different standard Islamic books, and so on and so forth. But the greatest challenge has always been that, I refuse to do what most people in my position would do. A lot of people, when they have opportunity to be in public office, the number 1 priority is have to steal from the public, commonwealth. I refuse to follow suit in this. And when I left office as a minister, people discovered that I've been as poor as I have always been. And a lot of my friends were annoyed with me. They said that I had opportunity to make money. I refused. And I asked him, what is the making of the? Is it not through stealing? If you are in the public office and you are on salary, once the salary stops, does anything comes again? But a lot of people would feel that it's even a sin for you to go into public office and not steal money. They expect you by the time you come back to be able to live, very flamboyant life and all of that. But I am happy that this challenge, I see it as an albatross. I see it as, and perhaps what guides me is a prophetic statement by Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He said that any flesh of the human body nourished by haram food, by illegal food, by stealing, will not enter Jannah. Any flesh, any part of your body, which benefits from eating haram food, eating illegal food, and illegal is something that you don't justifiably acquire.
Okay.
How do you steal money and use it to maybe eat food, some food, that all parts of the body will not benefit from it? So how would you feel if on the day of judgment they said, this money you stole to buy maybe dress or buy car or something, this part of your body has benefited from that part, so those parts would not enter paradise. I mean, how would you feel? So I get guided all of the time, and I always tell people I prefer to be a beggar, I prefer to be a poor man rather than being a thief.
I am enjoying this conversation, but it's time for us to go. Just before you go, sir, a lot of young people are looking, including me, are looking up to people like you. we want to follow in your footsteps. What advice would you have for us?
Number one, Islam teaches me that what God does not give you, nobody can give you. So everybody must trust and rely absolutely on the munificence of Almighty Allah. Of course, you make effort, but when those efforts do not succeed, don't be dampened. Take it as your fate. Because in Yoruba, you have this adage, Kirakita umola, kashishe bi eru odan kankan. Struggling is not what makes you a big man or a rich man. And working like a slave or a laborer in the marketplace is not what would make you become rich. So absolute trust and reliance on God. Again, Islam teaches me that God said, if you rely absolutely on Him, He will take care of your needs, just like He takes care of the needs of birds who during the morning leave their nests, fly all over the place. Before they come back in the evening, they're already belly full.
They are.
So for me, number one, every youth should ensure he's properly educated.
Okay.
Education is the number one obligation. Number two, we should have absolute reliance on God. We should worship God, worship Him, rely on Him, and trust that whatever final decisions that come unto us after our just efforts in aspiring for any ambition that we have, we should accept that God is wiser. He's the best of knowledge. He knows what we do not know. Because before He created us, He had created our destinies. So for me, youths should shun desperation. Youths should, after being properly educated, they should submit themselves to knowledge of God. God said in Islam, "Tarifuni kabla anta buduni, wa man lam yarifuni fa kaifa ta'buduni." God said, learn about me properly so that you know how to worship me. Anybody who does not learn about me will not know how to worship me. So because God created us only for the purpose of coming to worship Him, not so that we may achieve this or that. All those achievements are extras. So now it will be senseless for a student to go into university. The purpose of going to university, go and learn and acquire a degree. When you go, the only thing you are interested in is socials or football or some other thing. When your course is not
major thing.
So our purpose of coming to the earth should be the number one priority that we should attend to.
Okay.
In the course of that, we should also make effort, because again God said we should pray, Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanatan wa fil akhirati hasanatan wa qina azab. We should beg God for the goodness of this world and for the goodness of the hereafter. We must balance it, and none should, affect the other negatively. So for me, the youths should take care. When I had the opportunity I had early in life, I don't think it was because of my absolute wisdom. It was God's guidance, God's inspiration, and at the appropriate time, God ensured that I was in the correct places, all along.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much, sir, for your words of wisdom.
It's my pleasure.
And then for sharing your experiences
Thank God.
through the years
Thank
with
God.
us.
Thank God.
I have been conversing with Barrister Adebayo Shittu. And we had a nice time in the studio, but of course it's time for us to round up this particular interview. But Good Morning Abuja continues, and we still have lots of goodies. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag, so let's just leave it at that. Good Morning will continue after this time out. Please stay with us.